I'm live. I'm reading The Last Barrier by Reshad Feilds. It says here, A Sufi Journey. It was published in 1976 and he is in Turkey with his teacher Hamid. We are now in chapter 6. I think this is the third reading. He had upset Hamid. Tomorrow we will drive on, Hamid said. Plans have changed now, and so we will go to Ephesus to visit Mary. We can get there in a day if we start early and still have time to prepare ourselves before going up to her chapel. By the next morning the car had been fixed, and we breakfasted once again on bread and coffee, sitting on the balcony of the little inn. Today we begin the next stage of our journey. We are going to visit the place where the Virgin Mary went to live after the crucifixion. There is a chapel there, and normally I ask people to visit Mary on their way down to work with me. For you, however, it will be different. I had to see if you would be received by those to whom I sent you in Istanbul and Ankara before I could plan the next steps for you. He looked at me inquiringly. It is hard for you to understand these things. His question caught me off guard. I thought a moment. I can't tell you if it's hard or not, I said finally. The idea of a journey is so new to me. We don't make pilgrimages in England anymore. People may go to Lourdes, but that's different. We don't visit tombs. That sort of thing is considered superstitious. In fact, until I met you, the whole idea of God didn't mean very much to me. But you believed in Christ, I suppose? I don't know really. I believe that there was once a great master called Jesus Christ. But the spirit of Christ seems to have been lost. I've longed for a taste of the spirit. Maybe that's how I came to take this journey. So why all this searching for the dervishes? Hamid smiled and looked at me over the top of his glasses. If you wanted to find the spirit, which is Christ, what made you travel halfway round the world trying to find dervishes in Turkey? Well, you see, I felt there was some hidden knowledge that the dervishes had which would help me. Even as I said it, I realized that it was not really true at all. It dawned on me that I had never really sat down to consider why I was chasing after these people. It had seemed unavoidable, but Hamid's questions made me wonder if there was a need to find them after all. What was I really looking for? Let me tell you a little about the inner meaning of the Virgin Mary before we arrive at the chapel. Hamid seemed determined to push me into some sort of realization. You must first of all understand that, although I seem to be talking about an historical event, everything of which I speak is within you and is happening at this moment. There is no other. And what happened in our world 2,000 years ago is part of the unfoldment of this moment. Not that moment, but this very instant. It is neither a question of looking back 2,000 years, nor of trying to recapture that moment in your imagination. All you have to do is to be awake. But awake in this moment within yourself, and it will be your own understanding. It may take time to unfold in our world, but the truth and the unfoldment of the truth is always there. He paused and was silent for so long that my mind began to wander to the remains of our breakfast, to the proposed trip to Ephesus, to the state of repair of the car. Finally he leaned forward in his chair and looked at me, searchingly. I want you to listen to me carefully, he said. Make your mind quiet and just listen. Your body is the Virgin Mary. The spirit is Christ, the word that was conveyed through Gabriel, the eternal messenger. The breath is the breath of the mercy of God, and it is that breath that quickens the soul. Until the soul is quickened by the Spirit, it is like an unfledged bird. There are many paths to God, but the way of Mary is the sweetest and most gentle. If you can melt into Mary, the matrix, the blueprint of life, the Divine Mother, you will be formed and shaped in Christ, and Christ in you. And thus, through the breath of God's mercy, you will come into being and know him. For it is the breath of mercy that bestows being. Every moment God appears in living form, never manifesting himself twice in the same moment. Mary brought Jesus into the world because she was chosen to be the one for this work, and so she was trained in the knowledge of birth. It is said that Gabriel, the messenger, appeared to Mary in the form of a man. She thought that he wanted her as a woman, so she froze for a moment, turning to her Lord. If she had not relaxed, then the child born from that moment would have been uncompromising and impossible to live with. Your body is the Virgin Mary, the Spirit is Christ, the breath is the breath of God's mercy. Your soul remains asleep until it is quickened by the Holy Spirit. Each moment of our lives a child is born somewhere. The child that is born, could it be a God-conscious human being? Or it could be uncompromising in endless competition with life. The responsibility in the realization of these things is immense. If you can hear what I am saying to you now, then you will begin to understand. As you are permeated with the Spirit, you may, inshallah, begin to know, but it will not make life easier or lighter for you. It may make life heavier, but heavier with meaning and purpose. Mary is the Divine Mother. Mary is in the blue of the flame, and Mary is the matrix of all divine possibility and form, here in our world. It is necessary that she be recognized. Learn to love God with all your being, every part of yourself, your heart, your mind, your soul, and then we may all be granted the understanding of the meaning of the virgin birth. Learn to pray, and your prayers will come back from the very matrix that forms the child. A Sufi is called the son of the moment. As you melt each moment into Mary, something is being redeemed, that a child may be born, and what is being born is the son of the moment. The child may become God realized, and thus be called a Sufi, or he may walk the earth unaware, asleep, not yet human, not conscious of God or of the wonders of his creation, having no knowledge of himself and thus no real understanding of love. Your body is the Virgin Mary. Remember this each moment of your life. This is the responsibility that we must take as we come into knowledge, into being. Mary was chosen to bear Jesus because she kept her purity intact. People call this her virginity, but those who know understand that to be pure means to be completely adaptable, to flow with each moment, to be like a running stream cascading from the waters of life itself. To be pure is to spread joy, and joy is the unfoldment of the knowledge of the perfection of God. The work that you have been searching for is the Spirit of God, and the Spirit of God is the Christ which comes to redeem the world. The eternal messenger is always within, waiting to unfold the moment through the word, and one day when Mary is recognized again, there will be a reappearance of the Christ, manifested in the outer world. Remember who Mary is, and one day, when you are ready, and when God so wills it, you will know what I have told you. Most of that day we drove in silence, although I could remember the words that Hamid had spoken to me that morning and had been able to put them down in my notebook, I knew that it might be many years before I could understand their true content. I remember feeling humbled and ashamed that I had once more underestimated what Hamid was teaching me. Somehow my search for the dervishes seemed meaningless now. In fact, much of my search seemed to have been a waste of time. A desire was growing in me to know just what was behind this whole journey, to understand all the stepping stones on the path to this moment. We will not stop at the town of Ephesus now, Hamid told me. It's late already and we must go to Mary before sundown. Perhaps we will stay the night and look around the city tomorrow. The best way to her is to walk the 6 kilometers up the hill. But I'm tired now. When you come back, though, then you must walk. The road up the mountain was steep, with many hairpin bends and a spectacular view of the countryside. Nothing much has changed there since the time of the crucifixion, except for the tarmacked roads and the busloads of tourists. Shepherds and goat herds walk the hills with their flock. The terraces of grey-green olive trees have borne fruit since the beginning of history, and the clothes worn by the men and women in the fields are the same as they have always been. It was as though we were driving into a biblical scene that would remain just as it was until the end of time. We parked the car at the top of the hill and walked toward the chapel. The tourist restaurants and gift shops took away some of the magic at first. But then the noise of the tourists died down, and we turned a corner to find a mass being held in the open air. An altar had been set out, and perhaps 100 people were kneeling on the ground. There were dark-skinned Turks from the east and women in rough black dresses and pilgrims from Istanbul and Europe. A sense of deep peace and inner quiet was everywhere, and I longed to kneel with the others. "Come," said Hamid, "first to Mary." Her chapel was a very small stone building, surrounded by huge trees. The inside of the chapel was cool and shadowy, lit by hundreds of flickering candles, each one an offering of love. We bought candles at the door and lit them, placing them carefully in the niches which lined the walls. Hamid stood before the altar and prayed. Following him, I asked to understand the purpose of this journey into the unknown and prayed to be led to the truth. We did not stay long at the chapel, but walked to one of the nearby cafes for coffee. Perhaps you wonder how it is that I can pray to God through Mary, even though I was brought up in the Muslim faith, Hamid said as we sat down. Did you know that in every mosque there is a prayer niche dedicated to Mary? We are not involved with a form of religion. We are concerned with the truths that lie silent, waiting to be revealed within all religions. Once you know, then in your love of God you pay respects to all his messengers. Some of the messengers are known, some will never be known. Today marks the beginning of a new life for you. That is, if you have been humble enough, and if you have truly come with both hands, leaving everything behind you. Mary receives only those who come with all of their being. It is the same as the eye of the needle that you talk about. To get through the eye of the needle, you have to lose your opinions, realizing that you know nothing. To be received by Mary, it is necessary that you melt. In the tradition of Islam, everything starts with the acceptance of the unity of God, that there is just one absolute being from which all stems, and within which all exists. I can say that I believe in the virgin birth because I understand the things that we have been talking about. I look at the inner meaning of the words. I'm not caught up in the world of form. But we have said enough for now. It's getting late, so we will stay for the night and have a meal in a wonderful restaurant I know of, and drive on in the morning. That evening I sat on the edge of my bed in the hotel room in Ephesus and pondered what I had heard that day. Hamid had gone to his room, saying he wanted to be alone after his visit to Mary. I felt the same need and was grateful for the opportunity to just sit quietly by myself. My meditation was interrupted some time later by Hamid's footsteps as he paced the floor of his room, which was above mine. He had seemed very nervous before going to his room. Now I could hear him walking, and I wondered if something was wrong. Suddenly I heard a crash upstairs and the sound of breaking crockery, as though he had thrown a large object across the room and had broken a pile of plates and glasses. I ran upstairs, taking 3 steps at a time, and banged on his door. There was no immediate answer, and then I heard him say, "Come in." He was standing in the center of the room. On the table by the window, a glass vase lay broken, and his suitcase was lying open on the floor, the clothes scattered all around. He held his glasses in his hand, and one of the lenses was shattered. "I heard a crash," I said. "Is everything all right?" "No, it isn't. Something is wrong. We must go back to CD immediately. Get your things together and we will leave as soon as possible." "But Hamid," I protested, "we've hardly any lights, and it's dark, and it's going to take us all night to get there." "What has that got to do with it? How many more times must I tell you to trust? There's something not right. I don't yet know what it is, but we must return at once." "But how do you know?" I asked, bewildered. "Enough. Get your case and come, and pay the bill on the way out." Then he bundled all his clothes together, stuffing them into the suitcase, and hurried down the stairs. As soon as I could, I joined him in the car. It was quite dark, and the stars filled the sky. I noticed that there was a half moon. All night we drove. Hamid never said a word. We either sat there, staring out of the front of the car, or else he leaned back and slept, snoring loudly. The lights of the car were so dim that it required every ounce of concentration to stay on the road. Since it was not the tourist season, there were few cars, and as dawn broke, we were within 100 kilometers of Antalya. "Drive straight to Side," Hamid said. "Have you enough gas?" "I don't think so. It's very low." "Never mind, we must trust. There's no time to waste." I drove the last 20 kilometers with the needle showing 0. We did not run out of gas, though, and reached the house just as the village began to wake. Not waiting for the car to be parked, Hamid told me to stop outside the door. He climbed out quickly, and as he did so, he hit his head on the side of the door, knocking off his glasses. I ran around to pick them up and handed them to him. "The glasses are not important," he said. "Come quickly." We entered the house. I had no idea what to expect. Nothing seemed to be out of order. Hamid ran around the house, and then across the courtyard to the girls' room below my own. He knocked on the door, but there was no answer. "Go and look in your room," he ordered. "For what?" I asked. "There must be something there. Go quickly and see." I ran upstairs and into the room. She was sitting on the side of the bed. The blue wool was everywhere on the bed, caught around the bedpost and spreading out onto the floor. Her hair was disheveled, and her eyes blazed with tremendous anger. She looked at me and pointed with both hands at an envelope on the floor. Picking it up, I saw that it was addressed to me in care of Hamid. I called down to him, and he came hurrying up the stairs. "Excuse me." "Open it," he said, hardly even bothering to look at the girl who got up to greet him. It was a telegram from my business partner, short and straight to the point. "Return at once," it began. "Your attention, urgent, resale of business." "You stupid idiot," Hamid shouted. "You said that you would come with both hands and that you would leave nothing behind. Now I know why things have been so difficult. Just get out, go back and do what you have to do." With that he left the room. The girl sat there, her huge eyes fixed on me. She could hardly have understood what had been said. "Come on," I said to her, "let's go down to your room." I led her down the stairs. She carried the pile of wool carefully in both hands. I opened the door with one hand, holding on to her with the other, and led her to the chair by the desk. She was crying silently now, huge tears pouring down her face. "I must go to England," I said. "There are things that I have to do, but I will come back as soon as I can. We can talk then." She did not respond. I ran back up the stairs to my room and began to pack. That's the end of chapter 6. Today is the 26th of June 25.